Hey guys, welcome to the Powerful Man Show, where we help married businessmen save their marriages without having to talk about it, get unstuck, and gain clarity in their lives. As I like to say, life is too short for average. I'm your host, Doug Holt, with my co host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. Now let's get this started. What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Once again, I got Ryan Peach back. This is going to be a shorter one, guys, but Ryan and I got so fired up in the last episode. If you're not familiar with who Ryan is, first of all, you got to pull your head out of the sand. Second, go back and listen to the previous episode. I give a little breakdown. But Ryan brought up a really good point when we got offline. I said, hey, I got an extra 10 minutes or so. I think the guys will really get some benefit out of this. So, Ryan, I'll let you throw the topic to the table, sir.
Yeah. So again, getting to talk to thousands of guys, you hear patterns and themes over time. And one of the patterns, again, like I said last episode, there are very few lazy men out there. They are really trying. But guys come to me all the time and they say, I'm doing the dishes and I'm giving the compliments and I've read the 25 nice things to do to your wife and I'm doing 26 of them, and she just does not give me anything back. There's no sex, no love, no this, no that. And as I dig in, what I see for a lot of guys is they're doing that not because they are really trying to love on their wife, but because they're trying to get something from her that they need, right? That validation or that respect or the sex or whatever it may be. And guys, again, if I ever get the pleasure of speaking to you, I can dive further into it. But since women are so in tune emotionally, I get your logic of doing those things, but she feels and sees the emotion and the intention behind why you're doing what you're doing. So if you're doing it for the wrong reason, it actually counts against you instead of for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just honestly, like, if you're going to be doing things for that reason, then just don't do them at all. Um, and listen, I'm guilty of it. Like I have caught myself. My wife has, she's very wise to my flowers and the notes and the this and the that, and she'll just be like, "That's stop." Like that. I don't feel your intention behind this, and I think that a lot of guys get stuck in this pattern of trying to be the good dog or the good boy or do the right thing to get the reward. And it ends up leaving them feeling neglected and disrespected and not valued.
Oh, 100%. Guys, how often do we think with the intent of just connecting with our wives or maybe getting laid, right? Having sex, intercourse, whatever you want to say, right? We decide, okay, you know what? I'm going to make her happy, right? I'm going to make her feel good. I always joke around about cleaning the house. So I'm going to bring home flowers. But your intent is an expectation. And what this gets into is you get into what's called a transactional relationship, right?
Mm.
In business, that's great, right? Hey, look, I give you money, you give me service, right? Or I give you this, you give me a product, right? We have a agreed upon transaction. You and your wife don't. One is you don't want to be in business with your wife, so to speak, in the relationship portion. You want to
Yep.
be in a situation where you're giving your wife flowers because you love your wife and you want her to have flowers. No expectations. And we get into this transactional relationship, what we forget as men is there's no agreement. So Ryan and I might have an agreement. Ryan might say, hey, Doug, I'll give you $100. You clean my car. Cool. Ryan gives me $100. I clean his car. Transactional, right? Here's the
Yep.
deal. Do you and your wife have a transactional agreement that if you do the dishes, you get a blowjob? Probably not. So when you're
Nope.
doing the dishes expecting a blowjob, right, that sets her up for this energetic resentment and sets up you for disappointment because now you have a transaction that you had in your head that's not
Yep.
met or agreed upon. Therefore, you feel dejected. You feel like something's not being met. And you get upset at her, whether you do it outwardly or not. She can feel that you're doing it because you're expecting something that she didn't agree upon. So she's going to resent you for that. And that's really,
Yep.
you couple that with a needy energy, Ryan. And that's where a lot of men get in trouble.
It is, and it creates two big things that I see for men is, you get done doing the dishes, whatever it may be, you flip around, right? And you were like looking for your wife, right? Is the smile there? Is the hug there? Is the appreciation there? Is she on her knees ready to go?
Yep.
And when women are such good readers of nonverbal communication and all of that. So because your energy is so needy and strong and forceful, it forces her to pull back. Now, you may have a wife that really loves you and values the sanctity of marriage and for the kids. She may do the thing that you want her to do, but that's going to feel like a transaction,
Yep.
right? You talk to guys all the time. Oh, we have sex about once a month. Okay, but isn't it like that head banging, like pulling each other's hair, like kind of like, no, like it kind of feels like she's checking something off of her to-do list. She is.
Yep.
And that's because of the years or months of intention of I'm doing something to get something. You've created a transactional relationship. And so then what that creates for men is exactly what you said, is whether they get it or not, since you had an expectation, all it is that the expectation has been met, right? For Christmas, you expect to get presents, right? Now that you feel good, it's great, that's awesome. But you know what you really love is that unexpected gift that comes in the mail on a Tuesday just because it's Tuesday. It's like, man, this was such a gift. Like I didn't do anything to earn it. I didn't expect it. It's not Christmas. It's not my birthday. Like somebody just valued me enough to think of me randomly and do this thing. And so when the expectation is met of the sex or intimacy, connection, whatever it may be for you, that that may fill your cup for a moment, but then it immediately depletes and you're right back to being needy again. And so there's this constant cycle of rejection, doing something to get what you need, maybe getting it, maybe not, but it not filling your cup up and then creating resentment. And so you live in this cycle all the while your wife is feeling that I mean, worst case scenario for her, she's having sex with a business partner just to keep the business open, if it were.
Yeah, it's interesting as I was talking to a guy that I'm working with one-on-one who's gone through our program. And the reason he entered the program is he was having sex regularly with his wife, right? Which a lot of guys are like, "What?" Um,
Yeah.
but he was telling me she was doing it out of her religious duty, right? And he was like, "I would rather just go masturbate because I felt so dejected. I felt like she didn't want to be there, and you got to deal with the aftermath of that emotion and would trigger him too. And so it just wasn't even as good. Like he loves his wife. He thinks his wife is the hottest
Yeah.
woman in the world. All of these things. This guy's a good looking guy, very successful, but there was no connection. And what most men forget is we as men, I don't know about you, Ryan, but for me, I should just talk about myself. I feel more connected to my wife after sex, right?
Mhm.
Most men feel connection after sex. Here's the
Yeah.
catch: women need connection to have sex. And when I say sex, I don't mean just that, but like intimacy,
Yeah.
connected sex where they're opening themselves up to you. And as a man, that's what we want, right? We want our wife to want us too. Women want to be
Yeah.
desired, but so do we, right? We want her to want to be there. We want her to have fun while we're having sex, right? We
Yeah.
want all of those things. We want to be able to pleasure our woman and fulfill her needs too. And when your wife does it out of obligation, I gotta imagine as a man, that makes you feel just so small, like an inch tall, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. Like guys, I mean, most men, again, I can speak for me and just from the thousands of guys that I've talked to, I've had one guy that's the exception. Literally one guy I can think of as the exception. But most men don't want to go to a prostitute, right? They understand the transaction, right? I am giving you something to get what I need right now in this moment. I know it's not going to be fulfilling forever. I know I'm going to have to come back to the tank. I know that like, you don't really want to be here. You just want my money. It's a very empty relationship, but it kind of fills your cup for a second, right? But there's no deep, long lasting connection. When guys get into these transactional relationships with your wife, that's basically what you're creating is I'm going to give you clean dishes, clean house, the vacation, the Louis Vuitton bag, the kids picked up. I'm going to give you these things And in return, I expect to be paid in full for
Mm-hmm.
what I need. And it leaves you feeling empty. And you're exactly right. I did some intimacy work with my wife last year. And man, one of the most beautiful things that came out of that was we actually did a 60-day sex ban, like no sex for 60 days. And as a guy, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, no, like, that's how about 60 straight days of sex? Let's do that.
Yeah.
Um, and and it was interesting. I was like, I'm going to hate this. This is going to be terrible. And in that, what we created was specific time to lay in bed together and talk. And just talk, but like deep conversation, right? Not just like the how's your day, but like how are you? What's going on for you? What do I need from you? What do you need from me? What's going on? Where are we really? And as I went through that, I started talking to my wife. I was like, it's weird, but my desire to have sex as often has kind of dissipated, but my desire for you is more. And I was like, does that make sense? And she was like, that totally makes sense. I was just like, I don't need to have sex with you to be connected with you anymore. I am just connected with you. And when I get to have sex with you, man, that's just the cherry on top. And that's what I think men miss is when that connection is broken. Yeah, then we go and we're trying to plug into the system and we're just trying to get those quick hits of, sex, having an orgasm and all the endorphins and everything that go off versus doing the deep work of really getting into, man, honey, like who are you now? Where are you now? What's going on with you? Let me tell you what's going on with me. Not all of this is going to feel good. It's going to be difficult. This isn't just let me tell you how awesome you are. It's let me tell you what I need from my partner. And those deep level conversations create that intimacy and actually build a relationship rather than creating a transaction that you have to continually go back to the well to get.
Yeah. I mean, that's what transactions are, right? There's no depth to them. The
None.
bank runs dry quickly. You said something else. You said a lot of things, Ryan, that were great there. And one thing that brought up to my attention as I was talking to a gentleman and he'd gone through the program with us and we're having a conversation. He's like, yeah, my wife and I married, she was like this, da, 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 da. Started telling me the story about his wife. And it was evident to me that the story about his wife when they got married was still how he saw her today. I was like,
Mm.
dude, how long have you been married? He's like, oh, about 20 years. I was like, have you changed in 20 years? He's like, oh my God. I mean, it's like, Doug, the last, was it 10 weeks or so since I've been involved in the Powerful Man? My whole life has changed. And he started going off on all these things. I'm like, whoa, hold on. That's amazing. That's great that you've regained your power. Your business is doing better. Your relationship's better. Love it. And have you stopped for a second to realize your wife has changed too? Right? Who is she now? What books is your wife reading? Right? What TV shows? Who's she watching? Like, who's she talking to? Who's her best friend? And what's her best friend's problems? Like, what are the conversations she's in? What shows and podcasts? What are her dreams? Where does she want to travel? And I was just saying these things just rapidly to this guy. You could just see his face all change, like, oh my God. Then I asked him one more
Yeah.
question, Ryan. He got married at 22. I asked him, I said, hey, would you let the 22-year-old version of yourself run your business, your marriage, or parent your kids? He's like, heck no. No
That's right.
way. I'm like, imagine your wife has changed from that version. I think his wife was 19 when they got married. You're the 19-year-old version of her. Her hopes, her dreams, and all the things that she's wanted have probably changed dramatically. And as you guys went through and did life together, those conversations got put by the wayside because you got busy. You started a business, you grew the business, you became successful. She raised the kids, it talks about swim lessons, soccer games, practice, logistics came
Yep.
into the mix, and you forgot to redate each other and figure out who each other were.
100%.
And it happens so much.
100%. Yeah, it does.
So Ryan, thanks for jumping on again, man. This conversations with you, I feel like we could have these all day long. I always
Yeah.
enjoy it. Gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this as well. Ryan's been on this show a number of times. Every time he drops gold. If you want to go to thepowerfulman.com, go to the podcast page and just search for Ryan Peach. And I can guarantee you'll hear gold. And Ryan, I'd love to have you back on again, my friend. Thanks for taking the extra time to do this one with us as well.
Of course, my brother. Anytime. I'll see you soon.
You got it, man. Gentlemen, as we always say in the moment of insight, take massive action. All right, guys, that's a wrap for this episode. But as I always say, in the moment of insight, take massive action. You see, there are two types of men that listen to a podcast like this. Those that go on from one podcast or show to another, just hoping things are going to change and realizing that they're going to be in the same place month after month, year after year. You see, I was this guy, so I completely get it. You may just not be ready. But there's also a second man that listens to a show just like this. And this is a guy who takes massive action so they can shorten the learning curve, compress time, and get results to be the wolf. See, wolf is an acronym for wise, open, loving, and fierce. Now, ask yourself, which one am I? And just be honest with yourself there. And there's no judgment on my end, but if you're ready to move from deactivated deer mode, which is defend, excuse, explain, react, to activated wolf, wise, open, loving, and fierce, then go over to thepowerfulman.com/grow and go there now. In fact, I'll make it super easy for you. I will even put the link right in the description here so you can just click it and go over there now to learn more. Guys, in the moment of insight, take massive action. Go from deactivated to activated because like I said, life is too short for average. And I'll see you on the next episode.